Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the Netflix series titled Squid Game? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll go through a summary of the series, then offer my analysis. So, spoiler alert for Squid Game Season 1. Squid Game is a South Korean drama series that was created for Netflix. After it was released in September of 2021, the series has been a tremendous success. The production budget for the series was only $21.4 million for Season 1, or just under $2.4 million per episode. Just for a comparison, another extremely popular series on Netflix, titled Bridgerton, has a budget of $7 million per episode. The writer of the Squid Game was inspired by financial problems he experienced while living in South Korea and the class disparity he experienced. The series is about a large, evil organization with seemingly unlimited amounts of money and zero fashion sense who own an island not far from South Korea. On a yearly basis, they conduct a game by recruiting players from South Korea who are struggling financially, specifically people with a tremendous amount of debt and no real hope of ever paying it off. Many are facing incarceration, embarrassment, and homelessness. The series focuses on a specific year of the game and builds a cast of characters, including, but not limited to, players, guards, and VIPs. The players are recruited by agents who go out and encounter them in various places in public. They play a simple game where the potential player can win money, and the player gets slapped several times in the process. After the person wins the money, the agent gives them a card with a number on it, which allows them to join a high-stakes game, Squid Game. So this exercise in public appears to examine how willing the potential player is to be humiliated to make money, and it establishes that the agent will pay the money, like they're good for it. So the player will believe that the larger game will have the same result, that if they win, they will actually get the money. The players who called are picked up in vans, driven by mysterious soldiers wearing pink outfits and a mask inspired by a game controller. Gas is released into the van to knock the players out. They are taken to the mysterious island, but they don't know where they are. The players are forced to compete in a series of games, most of which are based on children's games. They can stop playing if the majority of the players vote to do so, but they won't win any money. Players who lose in any particular game are eliminated in the literal sense of the word. They are murdered by the guards. Sometimes players can win the games because of skill or athletic ability, but other times it's just plain luck. The overall object is to win all the games and survive until the end. The winner or winners will get their share of a cash prize of 45 billion South Korean won, which is about 38 million US dollars. As the game is being played, the surviving players can see how many other players are left and how much money the pot is up to. The money is stored in this big transparent plastic ball hanging above the room where the players stay most of the time. Other than playing the games that can get people eliminated, the players can also play kind of a side game called murdering one another. This happens a few times during the series. Sometimes the guards intervene, sometimes they don't. Whoever makes it to the last game and wins gets to split the prize money. If only one person wins, they get all of the money. As a bonus, the winners are not murdered. In the game, there are 456 players. They are numbered 001 to 456. The series centers on a few main characters: a chauffeur with a gambling problem, player 456, a former investor who is a childhood friend of the chauffeur, a gang member, a North Korean defector, a migrant worker from Pakistan, a surgeon who is a player but is also working as part of a conspiracy with the guards to harvest organs, a terminally ill elderly man who is one of the game's originators and plays the game voluntarily, his number is 001, and a police officer who sneaks onto the island in search of his missing brother. The missing brother is actually a discount Darth Vader-looking figure and Squid Game director called the Front Man, who himself was a former winner of Squid Game. During the first challenge of Squid Game, which is a lethal and creepy version of red light, green light, 255 players are wiped out by gunfire, mostly as they try to flee in horror, leaving 201 surviving players. The players call a vote to quit the game, and the vote is successful. They are advised that they will be given another opportunity to return to the game if they so desire. They are released back into the community, but they find that their financial problems have not only failed to go away, they have become worse. For these reasons, 187 of the surviving 201 decide to return to the game when they are given the opportunity. Over a series of other games, including removing shapes from cookies, tug of war, marbles, and crossing a glass bridge, the number of players dwindles to just 3. One who was injured was murdered by the former investor, leaving just he and the chauffeur. The 6th and final game is the Squid Game. The players reduce the game to hand-to-hand combat. The chauffeur disables the former investor, but then asks him to call a vote so they can leave. So the chauffeur was willing to give up all the money to save his childhood friend. The former investor brings an end to his own life using a steak knife, and the chauffeur wins. He is given the money and released. A year later, we see that he still lives as if he's poor. He put the money in the bank, but did nothing with it. He didn't invest it. He just left it there. He is invited to meet a leader of the game, who, as it turns out, is player 001, the terminally ill elderly man. Later, the chauffeur is about to board a plane to the United States when he decides to try to figure out who's behind the Squid Game and walks off the jetway. I guess this is a setup for a second season. Now moving to my analysis. The Squid Game is an interesting series. It's been very successful. I thought it was fairly good in most ways and deficient in a few others. I think that as a social and cultural commentary, it's quite compelling, but as far as entertainment value, the low budget and seemingly dead-end dramatic tangents negatively affect the quality. I'll go through a few of my thoughts here. I will discuss the positive aspects first, then move to the negative. Starting with the positive. Item number 1. The mechanism of the game itself reveals an interesting social dynamic. The players, to some degree, have compassion for one another, at least initially. Like they can empathize about the financial problems, but the game incentivizes them to murder each other. It's almost like the long-running game Survivor. People form alliances, but in the end, they have to betray everybody to win. This forces the players to decide what is really important to them. In the end, just about all of the players are ruthless and willing to kill to win. Item number 2, the game is essentially a metaphor for the real-world lives of the players. In both the game and in their lives, they have a low probability of winning. There is suffering. There is betrayal. They are desperate and destitute. And they don't really have any choices, just the illusion of choice. The game is an accelerated, compact, and more lethal version of their life experiences. There have been many people who have criticized the level of violence in the series, but one could argue that it only parallels the level of violence in reality. Item number 3, the series has a philosophical ending, one I think that is a little bit of a hit and miss at the same time, but it does have a compelling message. We find out in the end that the elderly man, 001, assembled the game because he was bored despite being exceedingly wealthy. To recapture his childhood, he used games that he remembered as a child to form the deadly Squid Game competition. The players competed in a game with a nostalgic background in order to satisfy the needs of someone with psychopathic characteristics. His final message to the winner of the game, 456, is essentially this: whether you have no money or more money than you know what to do with, life is boring. It's an uplifting message, practically a cure for depression. The co-founder of the game, even at the moment of his death, struggles to answer the question, is there any kindness in the world? He plays one last game with the winner by betting on a homeless man who is down on the street. He bets that nobody will help him by midnight, yet someone does, just in time. Now moving to the negative aspects, my criticisms of the series. Item number 1. The series has plot holes that somebody could sail an aircraft carrier through. Just to name a few, why would a police officer sneak onto the island? Why not simply call for backup? He even murdered one of the workers and took his outfit. He would murder another one later on. How could the people running the game keep it a secret? Not only do they have winners, there were 14 people who never returned to the game after the group voted to leave. How would the winners spend the money? If someone wins $100 or $1,000, that's one thing. But $38 million is kind of hard to keep a secret. That money would have to be laundered. Maybe that's part of the service. Who knows? They don't talk about that. Item number 2, the series included a few unnecessary components. One was the variety of dramatic elements, not just as part of the game, like the suspense of who's going to live and who's going to die, but in between the games we learn a little bit about the players' backstories. Unfortunately, the characters are shallow and uninspired. I don't think this really added anything to the story. Another unnecessary component was the whole tangent with the organ harvesting side hustle of some of the guards. This really didn't contribute anything to the storyline, other than when the operators displayed the dead bodies of the guards and the surgeon to convince the players that the operators wanted the games to be fair. So they were showing the players that they were willing to kill people who cheated. Item number 3, there is no way that people could endure the stress of those games the way they did in the series. The threat of impending death would cause many people to become emotionally dysregulated. The stampede that we see at the beginning of the red light, green light game was realistic. I think that would have happened in pretty much every game until everyone was murdered. Overall, I enjoyed Squid Game, but the writing was a little weak and the storyline was not tight. Moving to the last question, why is Squid Game exceedingly popular? Some people theorize that the series caught on because of how it criticizes capitalism and consumerism, but I think it's popular because it combines children's games with homicide. It is an example of the add more homicide strategy of TV executives. Studio executives want more homicide, like Christopher Walken wants more cowbell. I believe it's the action and the tension that makes Squid Game interesting to a wider audience. I don't think the social commentary is the main driver behind its success, but that is the redeeming characteristic of the series. Those are my thoughts on Squid Game. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be as interesting as a life and death game on a secret island. Thanks for watching.